Hey guys, this is the sixth tutorial, and today we're going to learn about the while loop and the do while loop. Now I believe all of you have remembered what the loops are all about, and I saved that document here in my desktop, but I just can't find it right now. I see a file over here, entry control loop. See, it's just not there. I just don't know what the what has happened to my computer or what, but I believe all of you have remembered it. And well, basically there are two types of loops. If you haven't remembered, well, just go through the previous tutorial video, or else I'm just gonna go through it one more time now. That is, loops are of two types. It's the entry controlled and the exit controlled. The basic differences between these two loops are: the entry control loop will have the checking statement at the beginning of the loop, and it will be executed, rather the loop will be executed only and if only that statement has a true value. The exit control loops are of only one type, that is a do while loop, and the loop will have the checking statement at the end of the loop, and it will be executed at least once even if the statement is false. Right now, with that being said, I believe you have remembered this last program using the for loop, that we have asked the user for any number, and that number will be stored in a variable which we have given the name as I, and we've taken another variable n and we have initialized that n as a 0. As in the for loop, we know that we need an initialization, a condition which is actually the statement, and an incrementation which can be a decrement as well. And we decrement by using the minus minus operator, this one, the minus minus operator. And now let's just run this program. Let's see what happens. Come on. Alright, there we have it. And now enter any number. Let's just enter any number 5. So this 5 would be stored in this address of this I variable. And now when we press enter, this for loop will be executed. That is, it will start from n is equal to 0, and it will come up to this printf statement, and I've given a \n for a new line and a \t for going 8 places to the right, and then we're going to print a star. Alright, so it's going to come up here, and at first n is equal to 0, so it will print a star. Once again, it will go up, it will increment n by 1, which would become 1 then n, and n is less than I, which is I is 5, so it would be less than 5, and it will print another star. So it will go on as long as n is less than I. So as long as n is 4, we would get a star. So there we have it. We have 5 stars from 0 to 4. Now that's the for loop, and now let's just run this program using a while loop. Now while loop is basically a simple loop. It's the simpler function of the for loop, and it's just quite similar to the for loop as well. Now if you write over here while, after a while we need a condition, and that condition would be, let's just say, while n is less than I. Well, n is less than I, and in that while loop we're going to print the value of n. That is, n would be 1 at the first, and we need to initialize n is equal to 0 as well over here. Alright, n is equal to 0, and printf \n \t a star. Alright, we give a double invert comma, and the incrementation happens over here. In the for loop, it happens along with the loop within the first bracket, but in the while loop it happens inside the loop. So that's one difference between the while loop and the for loop. Now the for loop and the while loop are both called the entry control loop because the condition is over here, and also the initialization of the for loop happens inside the first bracket over here, but in the for loop we have to initialize along with I, or whatever variable you're taking right at the beginning. Alright, so let's just give it a try, and we have a failure over here. We have a compound statement missing. Alright, it's just because we haven't ended the main program, so we need to write a get ch here, and we need to give a curly braces. So that would give us a success, and we have one. And now let's just run that program, and There we have it. Enter a number. We're just going to go with 5 just to check what happens with if it happens the same with 4, and it should give us 5 stars. There we have it, 5 stars. So at first, when n is equal to 0, it prints a star. Because n is equal to 0, it increments n by 1, so n becomes 1, which is less than 5, which we have stored in this address of I, because the user has entered the number 5, and it goes on till n becomes equal to 5, that is n becomes 5 actually. So that's where the control of the loop becomes obsolete, and the program controller then comes out of the loop and waits for a keyword from the user to end the console screen. Alright, so that's the while loop and the for loop, and now there's another kind of loop, which is the exit control loop, which is the do while loop. Now in the do while loop, it's just the same as the while or the for, but the thing is that we're actually basically looping, so it's just the same thing, except one thing, that this loop, the statement would be at the end, so the checking would happen after the loop has run for at least one time. That's why it said that even if the statement is false, the loop would be executed at least once. So where I do come up over here, give a curly braces, and let's just say we're just going to do that printf printf \n\t, and we're going to print another star. Alright, and then we're going to increment n by 1. That's the maximum we can do. And now here comes the condition while n is less than I. While n is less than I, that would be the condition, and we're going to give a get ch over here. Alright, so now basically what will happen is that the program will come up to I, up to this. It will scan the number which the user has entered, and it will go into this loop, and while going to this loop, it will first print the value of n, which is 0 that time, so it will be a 1 star, and in fact it will print it only when this condition is true, but at first it will print a star irrespective of whether the condition is false or true. I'll show you what happens if it's false, but since this condition is true right now, it will print a star. It will increment n by 1, so the value of n becomes 1. N would be less than I, which is 5, so 1 is less than 5. It will go up to the loop, it will print another star, increment n by 1 again, it will become 2, and this process will go on until n becomes 5. When n becomes 4, that is n becomes 5, that the value of n becomes 5 after incrementation from 4, it would check for this loop, and n would be not less than 5. 5 is not less than 5, so it will break out of the loop and it will come up to this get ch and wait for the user to enter any keyword from the keyboard to end the console screen. We'll just run that out first. Let's just check for any errors. We have a failure, and the failure is I have forgot to give a semicolon over here. So this is the only loop where you need to put a semicolon. The for loop doesn't have one, the while loop doesn't have one. It's just the do while loop which has a semicolon at the end, and after that we shouldn't get any errors. We should get a success. We got one, and now we just run that. Now enter any number. This is the program's controller is over here. Enter a number. We enter 5, and that 5 would be stored as it would scan that number 5, and now it would do this. It would print a star 5 times until n becomes 5. After 5, it would come out of the loop. There we go. It would come up out of the loop, and it will wait for any keyword. So let's just press A, and that would be that. So that's the do while loop. Now let's just see what happens if the condition is false. That is, let's just say the value of n is 5. Okay, so n is 5, so and I is, say, let's just enter I as 4. So what will happen is that 4 is not less than 5. Sorry, 5 is not less than 4, so it shouldn't be printing the star at least once. But actually it will print the star at least once. I'll tell you why. Let's just go ahead and put the number as 4, and we just get 1 star. The reason for that is when we enter 4 over here, the program controller scans that number and stores in that variable I, and goes into the do loop, because since we don't have a statement for checking over here, irrespective of whatever the statement is over here, it goes into the loop, and in the loop it prints the star because it said so, and then increments n by 1, so n becomes 6 now, and then it checks for the statement. So 4 is less than, sorry, n is less than I, so it's 6 is less than 4, it's false, it comes out of the loop. So even if the statement is false, the do while loop will execute the loop at least once, so we got 1 star. Alright, that's why I said that do while loop will execute the statement even if it is false, even if the checking statement is false. Alright, so that's looping, that's the do while loop. We got the for loop out of our way in the last tutorial, and in this tutorial we learned about the while loop and the do while loop. So hope you enjoyed. In the next tutorial we'll look at a different case called the switch case, which is an excellent tool for making programmable calculators. We'll learn how to make a calculator right here in the tutorial video, and maybe we'll just learn how to calculate simple interest, pretty basic simple interest, and then we'll go on with arrays and strings in the later part of this series. Thank you so much for watching, and happy programming. Bye bye.